Hi there, my name is Gui Benites. I am a professional photographer based out of New York City, and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the Leica Q2, which I've owned for the past 3 years. I got it in 2020, and I know that the camera got really popular, or has gotten really popular within the past few years. And since I've had it for a while, I decided to make a video about it and mention the things I like, things I don't like, and the things that I hope they improve or add or fix in the upcoming Leica Q3. This is my first video in English, so I am a little nervous. I've been living in New York for the past 8 years, but I've never, I am originally from Brazil, and I have a Portuguese channel, so this is the first time doing this in English, and well, I hope you guys like it. So here we have Leica Q2. I have it in this beautiful caramel case that I got from Leica here in New York. So the things I like about this camera are mainly the sensor. It's a full frame sensor with 47 megapixels. So you have beautiful images, extremely sharp. The lens is beautiful too, so it's a 28mm Similux lens, aperture 1.7, so you get a lot of light. It's great if you're shooting in dark environments or just dark situations in general. It's extremely sharp, it's beautiful. It does have the Leica 3D pop effect that people talk about it on the internet. Before, this was my first Leica camera. Now I own two other cameras. I remember when I first got this camera, it was because of a friend of mine got it, and I was just obsessed with the photos he was taking with it. And I didn't know about the name that people gave to this Leica effect, but I would just call it, or I would just say that to me it feels like it looks like glass. So it just has so much depth. It's just the contrast is beautiful, the colors are beautiful, the rendering of the colors is just insane. You guys probably have heard about it from other creators and just people talking about this camera in general. So it really lives up to the hype. It's just beautiful. The quality of the images that you get from this camera is just outstanding. Nothing to say there. But with that said, one of the tricky parts about it having so many megapixels is that the files are massive. So each photo has in between 80 to 100 megabytes, which is a lot if you compare it to other cameras, other compact cameras, or just other cameras in general. It's a lot. So one thing I learned right from the beginning, you really need very fast and expensive SD cards. So now I'm using, or I've been using for the past year or so, a 300 megabyte per second SD card, which is really good, and it's a lot faster. But I do notice the camera sometimes thinking, or if I'm shooting too fast with it, it will slow down because it's processing and it's saving all the photos. One big issue that I had right in the beginning was that I didn't know about this. So even though I was using a fast card, it wasn't fast enough. I was using a Sony TUF, and I can't remember now the speed, the writing speed, maybe it was 277 or something like that. Or maybe the reading speed was 277 megabytes, but I can't really remember the writing speed, which I think is the most important. So I had a couple of issues right from the beginning. It was my first Leica camera, right? So I was just, and I came from Canon. So I was just really used to, shooting really quick, really fast, and getting a ton of photos all at once. And I was just trying to do the same thing with this camera. So it really was a learning curve for me, which now I think I am I'm pretty good about, and I really like the sort of like adaptation that I had to go through to use this camera in that sense. But the big issue was that the camera would freeze. It would fully glitch. So the screen would get all crazy, all frozen, and with a big glitch situation, and it wouldn't change. So the only way for it to make the camera work again would be to remove the battery and insert it again and start over. But what happened during that process was that the camera would fully, corrupt the photos that it was saving when the camera froze. So that was sort of like a big issue because I didn't know about this. And a few times when that happened, and then, back home I was looking at the photos, and those photos in particular were either corrupted or they were not there at all. So that was pretty scary. I even had to get in touch with Leica about this, and I was supposed to send the camera in for them to take a look at it to make sure it wasn't like a defective unit or something like that. But I switched the memory card, and then the problem kind of went away. I also started shooting slower with this camera, which was something that I kind of like now. You know, I think a little bit more before I take each photo, so that was just something to think about. At the same time, the sensor is so good and creates beautiful images. You do have the downside that the picture is massive and you can't control the size of the raw file, like on a Canon camera or just the Leica M11, which you can change the size of the raw file. So I guess if you could change it, that'd be amazing, because I don't always need 47 megapixels. So yeah, another thing about this camera that I really like is the fact that I just have a beautiful kit in a very compact body. So it's really, really nice that I get to shoot and create these beautiful images with something so small like this. This is the camera that I take on trips with me. It's what I use to just, go outside and take pictures of, street photography or whatever I want to do. I take this on weddings. I don't shoot as much weddings as I used to with this camera because I ended up getting the SL2S, which I think is the perfect camera for me to work with. But I do take this still sometimes with me, or if I'm doing fashion or lifestyle, I love using this camera. Honestly, if I had the opportunity to just change the size of the raw file, or if the ISO was a little bit better, this camera would be perfect for what I do, because I love taking pictures of architecture, and I think you can just get amazing photos with this camera. But another downside of having such a crazy amount of megapixels in a sensor is that the ISO is not great. So I can shoot up to 1600 ISO, and I think it's okay. But if I go beyond that number and it's too dark, I will get a lot of grain, which I don't particularly like. It's not really part of my style, so that can get a little bit tricky. So I really don't shoot, above that, which it's kind of a bummer because the ISO goes really, really high. It goes, I think, up to 50,000, which is a lot. But in my opinion, for what I do and for the style of photography that I like, it doesn't really work for me. So it's kind of a bummer. But it's great if I'm not in those situations, which I manage to avoid anyway, just because it's not really something I like. But another thing that I really like about this camera is the fact that you have a Simulux lens, which is insane to me. Like the sharpness, the contrast, the depth of field, the rendering quality is insane. It's beautiful. So that's really cool that you have a Simulux lens here, and which, when you think about the price of this camera, you guys know it's pretty expensive. But if you were to buy these two separately, it's sort of like the excuse I use, honestly. But if you were to buy these separately, which is not even possible because they don't make like something similar to this, you have the M11, but it's like a different concept. But if you were to buy this separately, it would be a lot more expensive. I think, as far as I know, the most similar lens to this one is the Simulux 28 1.4 f1.4, and that lens is over $5,000. It's almost $6,000. So then you have the body. Let's say you get an M11, that's another 9 or 10 grand. So that's a lot of money. So if you think about it, it's kind of a good deal that you get here with this. And it's just amazing. It really, really is. It does live up to the hype. But yeah, I feel like if, and another thing that really bothers me is just how easily this camera can get scratched. It's pretty annoying. Like for the edges right here at the top, and then, the hood, the lens hood, it can get a lot of scratches really easily. So, if I'm wearing a jacket that has a zipper on, and then I just have this camera kind of hanging, I like to use it kind of like crossbody like this. So if it rubs against the zipper, it will scratch very easily. Or if I just sit it on a surface, it will kind of tilt down, and then the lens hood will touch the whatever it is, the counter surface that you're using, and then it will get scratched. Or if you're like moving around, you can hit things, so it just scratches really easily, which bothers me because I think there are a million ways to look at it, but I really like my things to look new, and I know that's not possible, but with the Q matte version, that camera is pretty resistant to scratches. So if they did something similar to that with the Q2, that would have been amazing. So what I did is I found a skin on eBay, and I've been using that skin for probably about 2 months now, and it's pretty good because it does hide the scratches. Like, you can barely tell that there's something. Honestly, if you don't know, you can't even tell that there's something over the camera. Besides, obviously here, the lens hood, and then just like the little flash hot shoe right here. Besides these spots, I feel like it's pretty okay. And what I do sometimes, I got one of those touch-up pans, and then I just kind of touch it up, and yeah. But you know, I really love this camera. I'm gonna put a link below with some photos that I guess a ton of photos that I've taken with it in the past 3 years, so you guys can see it and just kind of get a better sense of the quality of the images. But yeah, I just feel like this is an amazing camera. It goes without saying, honestly. And obviously, if you have the budget, if you want to spend that much money, I think it's totally worth it, you know. Obviously, it's a camera that I guess you're not going to be able to use for every single thing that you do, but if you shoot a lot wide, you know, like with a wider lens, like a 28mm or 35, I think this is going to be pretty good for you. And obviously, if you shoot slow, I think that's something important to keep in mind. It's not something that you can, you know, just go crazy and shoot really fast with it, because it will not be able to handle that. So yeah, this is, I guess, one of my wishes for the Q3, for them to make the size of the raw file changeable, that you can control it yourself. And honestly, if it had a dual SD card slot, that would be amazing for what I do. I think this is a great camera as is, and obviously the ISO too. It being able to handle a higher ISO without grain, or with less grain at least, like the SL2S for instance, that'd be beautiful. So I really hope they make these changes for the Q3 soon, which I think is coming out this year at some point. But yeah, so this is my 3-year review on the Q2, and my first video here in English. So yeah, I hope you guys like it, and I'll keep bringing new videos soon.